When I write and read problems, I pay special attention to certain adult learners, ones who have a lot of experience. They're generally quite polite and nice about it because they know that what they're really after is learning math, but they'll let you know when a problem has a context that doesn't make sense. And so I like to make it so that the math seems to make sense for them. And so as I read, I try to keep those sorts of students in mind. The Steve from here comes from a student my last semester who happened to be named Steve. The student has a different name every semester practically. If you have the assignment from 3.1 Part D, so if you take either the student or the teacher paper and turn to the start of the assignment, the first thing I'm going to comment on comes from right there at the top. And it's a problem about the inflation, and what you have to keep in mind is Steve's experience. Steve's read the paper, and Steve maybe has even lived long enough to experience times that have different amounts of inflation, and so you just need to keep in mind that Steve might be expecting something about constant dollars in a problem about inflation. The second thing that I wanted to talk about is real context. In my opinion, there isn't really a problem with having a problem that's just about math, that is just find the volume of a box that's, say, 4 inches by 6 inches by 10 inches. I don't think it was particularly in the spirit of the project I was reviewing here, but if the problem would have just said that, I'd have been fine with it. But this one talks about a pair of sandals coming in a box. What's the volume of the box? And my sort of thought was, well, why are we talking about sandals? You just make sure the box is big enough to fit the sandals. And so what I will sometimes do when that happens is I'll suggest an alternate problem that could be used. So I suggested putting baseball cards into the shoebox, and we have to make sure that we have enough volume. That would have been fine with me. Another fix that I would have liked would have been just to remove the context. Getting back to Steve's experiences, if you take a look at 3.2 Part B, this could be either on the student or the teacher version of it. I'm going to look right at the very start of this. And this again goes to Steve's experience. And Steve has held a lot of jobs. Steve may have actually worked in the landscaping business. He may have worked as a sales front for the landscaping, for a landscaping business. Steve has probably had contractors come to his house. And my guess is that this isn't really how charges are done for this. And Steve may well know that. Now, I don't think Steve, or the students like Steve, would have a particular problem with working the problem based on this, but I found it's a good idea to give them a chance to mention that they realize that this isn't really how it works. And so my comment was just to mention that some students have probably worked in these jobs, some have had contractors come to their house, and so I might have a brief discussion to debrief about that before we went on and did the problem. The last one goes back to real context. It is okay to put extra information in a problem, in my opinion, as long as the information is there to make the student pick out what's important. Otherwise, I'd try to make the context a little more real. So here, the Mazurskis are expecting a child, and they want to get their backyard fertilized, reseeded, and fenced before the baby arrives. This is 3.2 Part A, the introductory problem. And basically my comment was, if you really want to make this realistic, some cities have a certain time limit that you only have until you have to have your lawn in good shape if you move in. So maybe just say that instead of having the baby as an introduction. It's not particularly bad to have the baby as the introduction, but I thought it would be better to have a more realistic start. The rest of that comment just refers to if you go through all of the lessons in this, they eventually do different things in the yard, and so I just wanted the author to make sure that he or she knew that that later on they had taken out portions of the yard, and he or she needed to decide whether to go back and fix that or whether they thought it was okay because it was an overestimate. In a minute, we're going to get another pause, and just like the first two times, you're going to do a think, pair, share, where you spend a few minutes trying to find some examples where you think the context isn't real, or where you think the author could take better advantage of Steve's experience, or had better watch out for Steve and his experiences, and then you'll share with a partner, and finally you'll share with the group.